How to calculate profit in a construction project. In this video, I'm going to take you through some frequently asked questions that we've been getting that I'm super excited to answer that will give you a perspective that I think you're going to love. And so if you want to get into the nitty-gritty at a high level, as silly as that sounds, in a way that you can understand it, be like, I got it, then stay with us on this video. Let's go ahead and talk about this. I love this concept because your profit on a project, in my opinion, should always be something that you're monitoring. I hope this lands. This is one of my favorite analogies. But one time I remember I was playing a board game with my kids, Monopoly. It took forever, but I'm toasting these folks. Like I'm toasting my kids and I'm trying to coach them. And I noticed this pattern is that I have my money all neatly in piles. And theirs is just like all over the place, just typical kid stuff. It's all just like blah, like over there. Their property cards are all over the place. Mine are like exactly where they need to go. And I'm winning. Like I'm a real estate tycoon. Like I'm jamming. And I'm trying to tell them, hey, please, you got to separate your money so you know how much money you have. No, Dad, you're full. Okay, all right, okay. You got to understand what properties you have so that you can charge rent. And they're like, I know, but they kept forgetting. And I never saw a rule when I read the instructions that it's my job to tell them that I owe them rent. Because even if I'm playing with my kids, I'm trying to win this game. Anyway, so I win and they're mad at me. But I'm like, stick to the basics. Here's the thing. I always knew how much money I had to buy properties. And I always knew where I was going and what my risks were according to what properties somebody else had. I had full visibility, and I always had full visibility on what my properties were going to bring in. So I'm doing a little mental math to try and figure out and make decisions. Do I buy the property or not? I'll analyze my situation. Basically, that's the decision that you can make. Like, how are you going to spend your money? And you have to do it according to your current circumstances. And I realized that a job site is the same way. It's like playing Monopoly. You have to know how much money you have, and you have to know where you're going to get your money, and you have to see the path ahead, what risks that you have, so that you can balance them out and end up whole at the end. It's the same game. Construction is Monopoly. And so what we have to do, you have to know how much money you have. That's going to come from your projections sheet. You know, obviously I'm talking to you, so it's not like an exact whiteboarded out item. I'll put it in the description below, the exact breakout. Actually, I have a nice Canva graphic for it, but I want to see the overall budget, the percentage bought out, percentage remaining, percentage of buyout contingency remaining. I want to see contractor contingency, owner contingency. I want to see all of the gains. I want to see labor gains, gains on insurance, gains on equipment. I want to see the deal, the fee that we have in the overall project, and I want that all to sum down into my gross profit, and then I want to see what corporate is charging me from an overhead standpoint and what my other expenses might be, taxes and bonuses possibly on the project site, so I can get to my net profit. And that shows me how much money I have. Now you pair that with your risk and opportunity register, and now you have a full Monopoly game, because now I know how much money I have and my risks. Money and risks. Actually, it's money, risks, and money coming in. So my projection sheet shows how much money I have, how much money is coming in through gains and other profit centers, like maybe even self-perform, and I know the risks that are happening. Now what I always like to do is say, if these are my contingency buckets, I always project my possible risks. If it ever goes over and we're at risk of paying for it out of our profit, that's when like I'm going to take massive action. Like I'll probably take massive action anyway, but that's a red flag. That is a stop sign. We do not pass this, because your gross profit is basically your revenue for the project minus all of your direct project costs. You're basically your expenses. And your gross profit also includes, like I said, all of those gains and other profit centers. Your net profit is minus your general and administrative costs, your overhead, right? And that's the money that you have left over. And so to calculate this, you need all of your financial applications reporting to a single summary sheet so you can play the game. And so let me use that as a background or a backdrop to answer some real questions. Question number one, how do I calculate real profit on a project? Let me say this right now. You take your risks and you compare it to your contingency bucket. And if you're not covered reasonably for all projected risks, you need to assume that's going to be subtracted from your gross profit. Your gross profit is your fee, your self-perform, your equipment, labor, and insurance gains, and any other incoming profit. That's all summed together, and I would say minus any overruns on what you're projecting from contingency. That's real. Some people would say, no, leave that in, but I'm telling you, project that. Freak yourself out and go take action. And then that bucket of money, you minus your general and administrative costs, and now you have your net profit. How do you really track it? You see it weekly, and you make strategic decisions that are ethical, that make for the win-win within the parameters of your contract. Number 2, what factors kill profit after a job starts? I'll tell you there's 4 main categories, and I've mentioned them before, but I hope you write them down. Estimating busts. We have to get the estimate right. Number 2, production loss in the field. And I would say mainly because you're using CPM and you're not using the TAC production system. Number 3, rework from quality defects. That's again going to come mainly from CPM and bad practices and pushing, rushing, and panicking. TAC production system will fix most of that, but implementing lean will fix that one. And then the 4th one is schedule creep. Oh my gosh, this is so good. Schedule creep or schedule drift, right? Meaning that you're overrunning your project end date and you either have liquidated, preferably, or consequential, God forbid, damages. So you want liquidated damages and you want a number written there. You don't want consequential damages and you don't want liquidated damages with just a blank line with no amount written in. Basically, when you have schedule drift, you start spending your own money and you might have penalties, okay? So those are the 4 main reasons that you start to drift and lose profit. So let's just talk about those one by one. Estimating busts, not a good pre-construction effort, right? So we didn't actually plan to have a solid enough team early on. Then we talk about production loss. We're not preparing with the proper team size using lean systems if we have production loss in the field. Number 3, rework from quality defects. That means we don't have the right size staff. We don't have enough people on our team and we're not getting out of the work. And then schedule creep, that goes again back to pre-construction and not using lean scheduling systems. So that's how you prevent it. And there's this book called How Big Things Get Done that says projects typically don't go wrong, they start wrong. We've got to plan them right with a reference class, with the builders to get this right. How does our profit match the estimate? Well, this gets a little bit tricky because your profit, a lot of times it will just show your fee, or if you're really transparent, you will show your gross profit for the project transparently to the owner through transparent accounting systems. But what they may not see is the labor gains, gains on equipment, and then any gains that you might have because of really good insurance rates for insurance and bonds, right? And so that may be calculated separately, but how it ties to the estimate is, in the estimate for the overall project budget, you need your GCs, your GRs, and you need to make sure that you have the contractor's fee and contingency buckets listed there on the actual budget. Now here's where we go wrong in construction. I'm glad this question was asked. Typically project teams don't know how to manage this overall strategy because they see GCs, GRs, fee, and the contingency buckets. But the story is bigger than that. Like I said, what are our risks and are there any overruns? What about our gains? What about the profit that we're going to make from our self-perform? How does that then loop into our gross profit? And how does our overall overhead strategy from a corporate standpoint add to our net profit? And so this all has to be calculated in a summary sheet that I would be transparent about if it was me, but most people don't want to be, but it doesn't exist. So the estimate does exist, the projection sheet doesn't exist. And so the first thing I would do in your company is say, hey, I want to, and just, you can rattle these off, say Jay Money told me, and they can hate me. Total subcontractor budgets, and obviously the total budget, right? And then percentage of buyout done, percentage of buyout remaining, percentage of buyout contingency remaining, contractor contingency, owner contingency, all of our gains strategies that loop into our gross profit, any profit from our self-perform, all of that looped into your gross profit target minus what it costs for taxes, bonuses, and what corporate charges you for overhead equals your net profit. I want to see all that on one sheet. And that is how you calculate profit on a construction project. Now, there are some more questions. We'll cover it in a different video. I could talk about this for hours, but these are some recent questions that we got from listeners that I'm happy to have answered. We'll turn this into a blog post for you. I hope you've enjoyed this content. On we go.